Lesson 21. In Lesson 21, you will solve equations involving red and green cubes and blue and white pawns on both sides of the equal sign. I will tell you that, well, if your copies are like mine, these parentheses on numbers 2 and 4 kind of look a little bit like they're absolute value signs or just vertical lines. So I went in and I made those a little darker just to show that they are parentheses. This one over here on number 4 as well. So we're just going to be using all the strategies that we have to solve these problems. And you'll notice that they're getting a little longer, but we're just always going to try to get pawns on one side, numbers on the other. And if they're asking us to take away something that we don't have, we're just going to use that strategy of adding the zero pair. So number 1 is 3 white pawns plus a 2 block. I know this is a block because it doesn't have an X behind it. And then I have a -10 and I have a blue pawn. So I still want to think about which side has the fewest number of pawns, even though they're different colors. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. So I see that I've only got 1 pawn here and I have 3 pawns over here. So I'm going to slide this one down. My rules say that if I do something on one side, I have to do the exact same thing on the other side, and it has to be the same color. Now, I don't have a blue pawn over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a zero pair with my pawns. Again, the most common mistake kids will make is they will just pick up a blue pawn and add it there and say, here is the zero pair. Well, that's not a legal move. You can't do that. You have to make the zero pair here. Put 1 pawn in your left hand, 1 pawn in your right hand. This is your zero pair. You can't just add 1. Okay, this is your zero pair. Now you can add it, and now you have a blue pawn that you can slide down. So now I've solved one of my problems. I've gotten just numbers on the right hand side. Yay! But now I have pawns and numbers on the left. So what I want to do, since my goal is to get pawns just right here, is I'm going to slide that that green pawn down. So if I slide a green pawn down on the left, I have to slide a green pawn down on the right. I do not have one, so I'm going to make the zero pair. And again, a pair, not just add the green cube. So here's my 0. Now I can set it down, and now I can pull that green cube down. Now I'm left with just pawns on one side and numbers on the other. So I ask myself, 4 times what equals -12? This is a -12. So if I'm not sure, again, I can kind of look at this as if these were, well, what if I only had 2 pawns? What plus what would equal -12? Well, that would be -6 and -6. But these are 2 pawns. So this must be -3 and -3. And this must be -3 and -3. And -3 times 4 does equal -12. So my white pawn is -3. And my blue pawn has to be the opposite of -3. It has to be a +3. And if you want to write +3 right there, just so you remember that these two things are going to have opposite signs. They're going to have the same digit. They're both 3s, but one is a positive and one is a negative. And I would recommend that you do that for a while until you just start remembering. Once you figure out what one of them is, the other one is the opposite. Now I have to do the check, which means you bring everything back up, and these are just 0, so they're not helping me out. These are just 0. They're not going to change what things are. So now I'm just left with my original problem again. 3 white pawns and a 2 block is equal to a -10 and my blue pawn. So I said my blue pawn was a +3. So -10 plus +3 is -7. This quantity right here is -7. Let's see if I get -7 on the left. This is let's see, white pawns are -3. -3, -6, -9, plus a +2, that is -7. So my check is -7 equals -7. Next problem. Okay, I have a number block right here and I have a number block right here. So I have 2 blue pawns and I have another blue pawn and I have a white pawn and I have a red number block. That's all of what is on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side I have a 7, +7, and I have two white pawns. So again, pawns and blocks, least number of pawns, pull them down. So I have 2 white pawns that I just pulled down, so I have to pull 2 white pawns down over here, but I only have 1. I can go ahead and pull that 1 down, but I have to get another one over here to pull down, so I'm going to make a 0 pair, a white one and a blue one in each hand, and I'm going to add them. Now that I have a white one there, I can bring it down. So I have 2 whites pulled down on each side. Now, it'd be really nice if I didn't have this number block with these pawns, because getting pawns on one side, numbers on the other, that's my goal. So I'm going to slide that one down, and if I slide one down on the right, I need to slide, or on the left, I need to slide one down on the right. But I don't have any red pawns on this side. So I'm going to make a 0 pair with 1s. I'm going to add them to the side that I need the one to pull down, and I'm going to slide it down. So now my problem is 7 plus 1 is 8, and I have to ask myself 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times what value gives me 8? Well, that's 2. 2, 4, 6, 8. So that works. So each of these blue pawns is a +2. So if these are a +2, that means these are going to be the opposite, and they're going to be the same digit, because together they are going to make a 0 pair. So now I'm going to move these up, and I'm going to simplify and try to figure out what my check is. Well, I know these are a 0 pair, so I'll take those off. These are a 0 pair, I'll take them off. These are a 0 pair, I'll take them off. And then I'm left with this. So let's see what this checks out to be. This is, let's see, I'll start over here. My x's are +2. So 2 plus 2 is 4, minus 1 is 3. Okay, let's look over here. I have a positive 7, and each of these is a negative 2. So 7 minus 2 is going to be 5, minus 2 is going to be 3. So my check is 3 is equal to 3. And because I get the same value on each side, my answer is most likely correct. So now we can go on to the next problem. Here's a number block, here's a number block. So I have 2 white pawns, and it says I need to take away a green 4. Well, I don't have a green 4. Let's make a 0 pair, put them down, find my green 4, take it off. It's not coming back. But I have to add 4 blue pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are my 4 blue pawns. Now I'm going to go on the other side of the equal sign. I have a blue pawn represented by that X, and I have a number block that is 5, and it's positive. So once again, my strategy always is, which side has the fewest number of pawns? Boop, this one. When I have pawns and numbers on both sides, start on the side with the least number of pawns. Slide that down. Slide this down. Okay. Now, when I look over here, I can see I have some 0 pairs. I have a 0 pair right here. I have a 0 pair right here. Those are just zeros. I'm going to take those off. So now I'm just left with a blue pawn plus a negative 4 equals a positive 5. Well, again, it would be much simpler if I could just slide this down and just have 1 blue pawn left. But if I slide that down, I have to add my 0 pair on the right-hand side because I don't have a red block there right now that says 4 to take down. So I'm going to add my 0 pair to the right-hand side, and I'm going to pull down my red 4. And now I'm left with a very simple problem. 1 pawn is equal to 9, and it's a positive 9. So on my sheet, this is my blue pawn, that's my X value. So that's a positive 9, and I know that these two values are going to be opposites, just like these have been opposites. So this must be a negative 9. Now it just so happens up till now, all of our blue pawns have been the positive value, and all of our white pawns have been the negative value. That's just coincidence. Don't think that the blue pawn always has to be positive and the white pawn always has to be negative. Whoops, I didn't do my check. So I'm going to put all of these back. Let's see, I took away that, so this would be here. I've got 4 blues, and then on this side I have a blue and a 5. Got a little bit ahead of myself. Okay, so I said the blue was a 9, and I said I have a green 5, so 9 plus 5 is 14. I should get that over here if I do things correctly. So here is a 0 pair, here is a 0 pair. Let's see, I've got 9 plus 9 is 18, minus 4 is 14. So I do have 14 on this side, and I have 14 on this side. Last one for the new work. I'm going to look for my number blocks first. So I'm going to start out with 3 white pawns. And it says I need to take away from these 3 white pawns a red block. I don't have a red block, So I'm going to make a red block by adding a 0 pair. Add the 0 pair, take away the red -5, plus a blue pawn is equal to 2 x's plus a -3. So, looking back at my strategy again, I have the least number of pawns on this side, so I'm going to pull those 2 down, pull down this 1. I need to pull down another one. I don't have another one, so I'm going to make a 0 pair and add it to the side where I need to pull down. So now I've got just numbers on this side. Yay! So I want just pawns over here. I'm going to pull down that green 5, and that means on the other side I need to pull down a green 5, but I don't have one, so I'm going to make one. I'm going to add a 0 pair, and I'm going to pull down that green 5. Now I'm left with 4 white pawns are equal to a -8, because -3 plus -5 is -8. So I asked myself, what plus what plus what plus what would give me a -8? 4 times what number would give me -8? That would be -2. -2, -4, -6, -8. So each of my white pawns is a -2. That means that my blue pawns must be a +2. So I'm going to move these back up to do my check, and I'm going to find my zeros and take them off. I can even find my zeros on my pawns and take them off. That makes it less complicated. So let's see. I'm saying that my blue pawns are +2. So this is +2, that's +2, that's 4. And 4 minus 3 is 1. Let's see if I get 1 on this side. I said that my white pawns were -2. So if I have 5 and I subtract 2, that's 3. And I subtract 2 more, that's going to give me 1. So my check is 1 equals 1.